this lesson, we'll be covering the repeat forever loop. Now, so far this module, we've been focusing on control blocks. These are blocks that determine the order and how often commands happen. The first couple blocks we looked at were the if and the if-else blocks. And again, those act as gates in our program that decide whether or not certain sections of code happen. A loop is similar, but it has this added feature of repeating sections of code. So as we look at the repeat forever loop, we want to not just think about how to use this particular type of loop, but in general, what loops in programming are used for. So when we talk about loops, loops are about repeating commands. And in Scratch, we have a couple different types of loops. We're going to start off with the repeat forever loop since we've already been using that one, but then we'll move on to some of the other ones that are built in. And just like all of the other tools of programming, different loops are used in different situations. In a repeat forever loop, obviously we're repeating something as long as our code is running. It's not really asking any kind of conditional question. The other types of loops eventually will stop based on certain conditions. Now, in general with loops, they're about repeating commands, and we're doing this to control how the program runs. That's the general theme of most of our tools of programming. So there are different times that you want to have certain commands happen, or maybe block them off and keep them from happening. If you think about a game, for example, I only want my points to go up if a certain condition's been met. So as we're working, we're going to do this because of efficiency. We've talked a little bit in this course about why computers were originally invented. They were done originally to do number calculations, but very quickly they became tools that were able to do things that humans can't do efficiently. Repeating actions is one of those things. If you picture asking a student in your class to do some type of repeated action over and over and over again, humans actually really kind of stink at this. We tend to get bored very easily. I know I tend to wander off. We start making mistakes, those types of things. But computers don't have any of those drawbacks. They can keep performing an action over and over and over again, never get bored, and not make mistakes. So when we think about why we use loops in our programs, again, we're repeating commands in order to control how the program runs, and we're doing this because of efficiency. This is one of the ways that we get computers to automate certain tasks that humans really aren't very strong at doing. Let's take a look at what this looks like in our code. Okay, so here's a very simple program. We've got our cat, I've got when clicked. It's not really doing anything yet. Now, like everything else we've been concentrating on in this unit, we're looking right now at the control section. So the control section is about controlling how the flow of our commands happen. So we've already used the if and the if else. Here we're going to grab this forever block. So as an example, I could, as a forever block, I'm going to grab a pen and let's set the color up here and put the pen down, and then we'll ask our cat to move 10 steps. Okay. So actually I may get, right, I'm going to have this so the pen shade is continuously changing. Alright, so we're going to start at green. And you can kind of see here there's a little bit of difference in the color as we go. The cat's still going. I'm going to change this now so that he turns a little bit every time. Let me scoot him back over here to beginning. And while we're at it, I'm going to actually clear the screen. So when the flag is clicked, let's see, looks. I want to clear any graphic effects that are there. And you'll notice I did this by clicking over here on the stage backdrop down near our sprites, and you get a different set of commands. Obviously the stage isn't going to move around and things like that, but you can do things like change the background, change the color, things like that. And I'm just using this to make sure we start off with a clear screen. Let's go back to our sprite. And so I'm going to start the, let's see, we'll leave that green, change the pen shade. I'm going to change this by 5 so we get a little bit of a difference, and then we run. Okay, so you'll see as it runs, it's kind of running between different shades of green there. Okay, I'm going to change this right here. Let's experiment a little bit. Let's change it by 13 degrees and see how it changes. Okay, so you see there we get a slightly wider circle. So it's a very simple little program, but it lets us play with a lot of different things. Rather than having to click over and over and over again to see what happens as my pen shade changes and I move and it circles and all of those things, basically I'm able to repeat and try those commands again and again and again and see what the impact is. So as we go through looping, again, the basic idea is we're going to repeat commands. Now, this is kind of a silly program. It's just changing pen colors. It's nothing all that exciting. But if we think about it, the basis of most games is repeated actions, things like that. So as we ask our students to build programs that tell stories and play games and all of the different kinds of things we want them engaging in, a loop is a very basic block that we're going to use over and over again inside our programs.